This is the Impunity Observer podcast. Fergus Hodgson, your host here. I'm the publisher of the Impunity Observer, a geopolitical intelligence service. If you've not already, please do subscribe. You can also get a free monthly update. Go to impunityobserver.com. Also follow us on social media. My favorite is Telegram. We have a very active Twitter account. Thanks so much for listening. Today we have what I see as a bombshell story. We have just released this week a statement from Carlos Torrebiarte. He is a businessman in the agriculture sector. He's also a director with the Association for the Defense of Private Property, a former vice president of it. And his statement, which appeared in English for the first time on our website, is free speech for comrades only. I should mention that this is relevant. He is a weekly columnist with Nuestro Diario, one of the very top newspapers of Guatemala. He believes it is number one. I don't want to say that definitively, but it's definitely up there. So, Carlos, welcome to the Impunity Observer monthly podcast. And I don't want to put words in your mouth. So, why did you come forward to make a statement?
Well, the thing is that my wife and my visa was revoked last week after 45 years that we had it. And it was revoked because I write columns which are not on the same line of the policies that the United States, the Secretary of State, is trying to impose here in Guatemala. And they started to say that they were going to take the visas out of the people that are against their policies. And I received an email saying that my visa was revoked. So I wrote my column saying that unfortunately the United States is not the democracy that I knew when I lived in the United States. I am a graduate of the University of Florida. And I have a son that lives in the United States. He was born when we were studying there. He's an American citizen. I never intended to live in the United States. I am a very happy Guatemalan. I don't want to leave my country. So I don't know what is the danger that I have a visa. This is a situation that the United States is doing what totalitarian states do. They want to intimidate people, not to talk when you are not, you don't agree with their policies. So I wrote about it. I am very sorry about the United States. You know, they can do whatever they want. If they don't want me to go there, that's their right to do it. But what I am writing here is that we also have rights in this country. We are a sovereign country, and we don't want the United States to mess with Guatemala and to impose their policies because they, what we are trying to do. I also have, with a group of people, we did a press conference in October trying to explain why it is important for the Attorney General's office to finish an investigation that they are doing about the complaints about all the different anomalies of the elections. So I think that the State Department didn't like that.
Exactly. So I want to give a little bit more context to Carlos's statement here. One, Guatemala is right now in basically almost like a crisis of democracy because the nominal winner of the second round of the runoff election, his party used, and they've admitted this now, maybe thousands of false signatures to register as a party. So that registration really should be illegal or null, right? And further, there's also a lot going on with the counting. The Prosecutor General's office, led by Consuelo Porras, has also basically gone in and had taken possession of some of the voting boxes, or I'm not sure what you want to call them, but let's just say the ballots, to assess that they were counted correctly. So there is this standoff, and sometimes this is hard for me to understand, but the U.S. State Department seems to think that it has some kind of moral obligation to, like, I'm not even making this up. Carlos is not even making this up. It's very confusing. They seem to think they've got some kind of moral obligation to go in there and intimidate Guatemalans to accept their candidate because they happen to prefer this man, Bernardo Arevalo of the Semilla party. So the U.S. State Department is getting heavily involved, not only the State Department, the Organization of American States. I assume the European Union has made comments on this. And the problem is that it's not just statements. USAID funded quote NGOs, basically these violent subversives. They literally go and blockade roads and shut down this investigation. So what Carlos is telling you is that I want to give him more of the details, but basically he spoke out against this and then lost his visa. He's no security threat to the United States. There's nothing against him. No explanation has been given. It was simply because he is an outspoken man who defends Guatemalan sovereignty and wants the investigation from the Prosecutor General's office to proceed. Did I get anything wrong there?
No, you're okay. You're right. And that's the only thing that we say, that we want the investigation to be finished, because what we are afraid of is that if the impunity of the tribunal court of the electoral court,
tribunal, yes,
continues, we are going to have the same situation in 4 years, in 2027. So we don't want to live the same thing that we are living right now. We have 1,000 complaints in the attorney's office right now about the election. So what is the problem that the attorney's office finished the investigation? So that's very suspicious. And one of the things that I been writing is that how is it possible that the United States, the State Department, comes to Guatemala and say us that we are putting the courts in the electoral system, and we shouldn't be doing that, when you have Donald Trump being prosecuted by 4 courts with more than 100 indictments? So what I was trying to say is that there's a double standard in the United States, because they want to judge us different of what they are doing there, and the Democrats are trying to ruin the election of Donald Trump because he is the front runner of the election. So it is a double standard of the United States. I really like your country, the United States. So I am very sorry of what's going on there. When you go to visit, how can they tell us how to do things if they are destroying their own country, with Black Lives Matters and all the things in New York that is going on in Baltimore and everything. So what we understand is the double standard of what they're doing here and trying to impose us their policies.
Yeah, so again, there's a lot going on. First, I want to make clear to people that the elections, or the presidential election, was part of broader elections in the country, but the current president-elect, nominally Bernardo Arevalo, he had a very weak mandate. I mean, I think in the first round he got, maybe was it 15% or 12%? It's a tiny
12%.
portion.
12%. And the thing is that nobody knew what their policies, the policies that they are going to implement. The thing is that they advertise themselves as the anti-corruption party. And imagine how corrupt they are, that they started the party with a lot of corruption, forging, not only forging signatures, but they invented people, in the sequence that we show, and in the writers that I've been doing, I've been showing that how these people not only forged the signature, but they invented people, invented IDs and what the Attorney General's office found, because and they started the biggest investigation with the impunity crime division, because Bernardo Arevalo made a request to the Attorney General's office to investigate the forged signature of the first guy that started the thing. So when they went and checked the 25,000 people that they affiliated, they found that 8,000 people do not exist. You know, so imagine that if you are saying that you are not corrupt, in the only way that you can do that is that you pay people inside the electoral tribunal court. So yes, that's why the attorney's office they started an investigation with the impunity office of crimes in the attorney's office, which has all the powers like the FBI to investigate everything. And that's when they started to be afraid, because they found out that they were doing things wrong, you know, that they started wrong. So we went to investigate to the Tribunal Electoral Court, and we found that since 2018, people inside this electoral court found out of this situation. They made the complaints to the right people, but the magistrates of that time and the register and the inspector general didn't do their job. And in the press conference, what we show is that the check and balances of this court, the electoral court, didn't work. And we are saying that the mess that we are living right now in the country is because the checks and balances didn't work, and that there should be an investigation, and they should let to finish the investigation. Imagine that the Republicans start to ask the resignation of Merrick Garland and or any attorneys that are doing the investigations of Donald Trump. They start to say that there is no democracy, and this is what is happening in Guatemala. The United States, the European Union, the Organization of American States are putting pressure in Guatemala for the Attorney General to resign. And that's incredible. It's really something that it is the same thing that happened in Ukraine when Joe Biden went there and the Ukrainian president, because they were going to give them $1 billion, and he said, "Oh, if you don't do that, yes, if you don't do that," and the same thing they're doing here. You know, they are saying that if the Guatemalan is going to be put in a condition that we are not going to be able to do business with the United States, and that a lot of different pressure economically, and that's why I also say in this column that unfortunately people don't want to talk about this because of the things that happened, like the visa that was taken from me, you know. So I think that this is an example that they're trying to make, that if you don't say what they like, they you have repercussions, you know.
Yeah. And so just people, we've got so many sources on this topic, or so many articles for the details on this topic at impunityobserver.com. Please go there for the show notes, all the links to explain this further, because this is an ongoing, difficult or broad topic now, international one. And the other organization is the Liga Pro Patria. There is a civic organization in Guatemala that is putting up many statements, both in Spanish and English, explaining the situation. Now, let's just clarify, just back up and clarify. A colleague of yours found himself registered with the Semilla party. This is before anyone knew about the Semilla party getting elected or anything like this, that they had registered him without his knowledge.
Yes.
And like I said, then Semilla got 12%, and there was only about half of people voted. 25% gave a blank vote. So the mandate that this man has is so just minuscule, it is pathetic. Then, because he came up against some kind of hardline socialist leftist, okay, Guatemalans, I guess, almost felt like they had no choice. He did prevail in the runoff. At least that's what the official results are. The Supreme Electoral Tribunal results have been. Now, and we've got to the point where the Prosecutor General or Attorney General and her office, they've been investigating this whole issue, and the Supreme Electoral Tribunal has basically, for some reason, whether there's money flowing, I can't say, but for some reason has got its back up and said, and tried to get in the way and stop this from happening. And just so you know, we also have on the Impunity Observer website a statement from the Semilla party. I think it's the secretary or treasurer, one of these positions, saying, yes, there were some mistakes made, or admitting to this, but everybody does it. That's the excuse of a child. Oh, look, they do it too. So it's not even really debated now that the Semilla party did use false registrations. Now, why do you think the U.S. State Department, in their arrogance, why do they even care? What is their motive here?
Well, I think that their motive is that they supported too much the electoral tribunal, that right now they are trying to stop all the investigation because they are going to look really bad with the people of the United States. You know, I assume that I cannot understand how Republicans don't look at this situation of what the State Department is doing here in Guatemala. You know, in Congress and the Senate, because this is a shame for the United States. You know, and how and I think that Congress should start an investigation of what's going on here in Guatemala. Because the information that you get, that they get in the United States is completely false. I have a statement here, for example, of Matthew Miller, which is the Speaker of the Department of State, and the 31st of October, he said that the Attorney's Office was trying to take in a violent way, pacific manifestation,
peaceful
manifestation in the country, which were not peaceful. That's
not at all.
That's offensive. They were blocking the country. Guatemala was in a mess because they were blocking. They were violent, and that you have the Speaker of the Secretary of State saying that it was peaceful. Come on.
These people are just liars. They know better. That they know these are violent protests. They literally went into Consuelo Portas's house and defecated all over the place, right? This is everybody knows this. It's not private. They are literally intimidating her by going into her own home. So
yes, so I don't understand how is it possible that in the United States, politicians in Congress, that they have the obligation to see what the executive branch is doing, you know, and they don't do anything, because this is something that really affects the sovereignty of Guatemala. And what I also think also is that I talk a lot with friends from Latin America, you know, and they ask me why in Guatemala the United States government is against the private entrepreneurs or the private sector and everything, you know, and I really believe, you know, I talked like 10 years ago with someone that they knew about the things, and he told me, you know, in the United States State Department decided that the problem of El Salvador were the pandillas, all the gangs, that the problem in Honduras is the organized crime of narcos and everything.
Yeah.
And in Guatemala are you guys, you know, the private, the entrepreneurs, you know. So I think that the way that they treat people here in Guatemala is something that I don't understand. You know, I don't I am baffled to see what they do against the people here that are working, and how they think that a guy that is Bernardo Arevalo, the first thing that he did after the second round when he got elected, he went to Mexico to adhere to the Grupo de Puebla. Grupo de Puebla is an organization that is a part of the all the people of Venezuela, Boric of Chile, all the leftist people, And after he went to the Grupo de Puebla, he came to Guatemala and the blockade started, which is typical of what these people do. So, and he also adhered to the Progressive International, which is an organization that is supporting Hamas in the problem in Israel. So I don't understand how is it possible that the State Department of the United States support these kind of people. It's incredible. And the only thing that we want is not to mess with Guatemala, to let things happen.
Yes, and he also went to the White House and didn't meet with Joe Biden personally, but with many of his top officials, and they released a statement backing him. This is why the U.S. executive branch under the Democratic Party, and I hate to say it, but the permanent bureaucrats of the State Department, they have dug themselves into a hole deeper and deeper, because the more they align themselves with Arevalo and the Electoral Tribunal in Guatemala, the more they will have egg on their faces if this investigation reveals criminality, which I can't say what it will reveal, the magnitude. Of course, as I said, the Semilla party has already admitted to falsifying signatures. That's a given at this point, but there could be a lot more. And I hear murmurs that there's a lot more, let's say, there are serious crimes to be revealed to the public.
Yes, and you know that in the United States, they have the problem of the deep state, We are very sorry that when Donald Trump was president, the ambassador that he sent was the same thing. I think that the State Department is an organization that doesn't follow the rules of the president. It's an organization that they do whatever they want, and right. They made a lot of mistakes, And the problem is that when they find out that they made a mistake, they just leave the country, and other people come, and the ones that are going to be with the long-term problems of what they do here are the countries that are affected, like in this case, Guatemala. And that's what I am trying to say, that don't mess with Guatemala. Let us resolve our problems, because when they found out that there is a situation that they cannot control, then they just leave the country. So it's the same thing that, unfortunately, the situation of the State Department and how the foreign policies of the United States can be wrong a lot of times, like with Noriega in Panama, with in Iraq with Saddam Hussein. They support the guy first, and then they take them out by force, and we don't want to have that in Guatemala.
Yeah, so the real threat now, if this investigation is not allowed to continue and see, follow through to its fruition, you will have a let's say, a further disruption or further departure from the rule of law, whatever rule of law exists in Guatemala. Yeah.
Well, that in Guatemala, we have a very strong, we are a peaceful country. We are trying to follow the rules and democracy. And of course, like any other country, we have our problems. But we are not a place that you cannot live. We have a lot of people from the United States, from Europe, living here in Guatemala and all over the place. It's a beautiful place. And the only thing that we want is for all these countries to let us resolve our problems. We are not trying to mess with anybody, and that was the message that we gave in the press conference. And the thing that I want to say to you is that if they don't investigate the electoral tribunal, there is not going to be democracy in Guatemala. These people are really corrupt. They are finding a lot of corruption in their governance, in how they don't use the check and balances. Just not in this case that we investigated, but in other cases. And there is not going to be transparency in the country. There was a poll that they did in between the first and second round that 70% of the people of Guatemala don't believe in the electoral system. And when you hear all these people from the United States, Europe, and the American organization, the state, they say that the transparency was okay in Guatemala, and the people talked and people voted, and we have to respect the voting. We have always respected voting, you know. The thing is that right now, 70% of the people don't believe in the electoral system, and that's a big problem because the electoral system is this support of democracy. And if they don't investigate them, we're going to have a problem in 2027, and we are going to really fall out of democracy, I think.
Yeah. I mean, we could talk a lot longer about this topic. What now do you think is going to happen? Are other people intimidated now by your example? Has the intimidation worked?
Well, they were intimidated before. People are not talking here. Before my situation, you know, and when I did that press conference, everybody called me that I was stupid to do that, and that I am stupid to write about this because they were going to take this action, you know. I never thought that they were going to do it because I am just doing what I think, you know. There is a free expression in the country, and the United States is supposedly the king of free expression of the world, you know, and what I found out is that not that way anymore.
Yeah, so this is the challenge, and you've pointed on this. It's a recurring theme in our work. When we examine impunity or corruption or the breakdown of the rule of law, that people think that the U.S. officials, foreign policy officials, serve the U.S. people, and they don't. There's a grave disconnect between what they do, and they think they can't get fired. They promise themselves lifetime jobs or whatever, and what U.S. people, the U.S. citizens, the American people, what they want. So you are one person who stuck his neck out and suffered. And as you say, they have created a chilling or self-censorship scenario in Guatemala, so people don't speak about just a simple investigation to maintain the electoral integrity. And apparently maintaining electoral integrity is some kind of anti-democratic endeavor. It is very Orwellian. It's very confusing to foreigners who don't know better. That's the whole point of our publication existing, to get out of all this junk, all this noise, and get to the heart of the matter. So we've been speaking with Carlos Torrebiarte. Now, Carlos, you are a columnist with Nuestro Diario. That is good news to me. How can people follow you if they want to learn more about you or read your work?
There are people in X and Facebook that post my columns. You know, are
you on Twitter? No.
No, I don't use social networks. I have a lot of work to do. You know, I don't have time to do that. You know, so maybe right now I am going to start to do it. You know, but right now I think that with Nuestro Diario and people that post that, they can follow, and also with people that are. I have received a lot of calls and mails from people that are really disgusted about what's going on, you know, and really they are starting to understand that the situation is not normal. I am not a narco. I am not human trafficking guy. You have 9 million people that entered the United States since the Biden administration started. I know a lot of people. I live in the country, in the rural areas of Guatemala. I know a lot of coyotes that are like any other people there. Everybody knows that there are coyotes. They are really doing harm to the United States, and nothing happens. So it is incredible what's going on. So.
Yeah, but what do you want listeners, people who listen to this and say they agree with you that you should be able to speak freely to defend your perspective on electoral integrity, and what can they do about it? What can Guatemalans or foreigners? Yes.
Yeah, what we want to start to do is to write to Congress people and to senators for them to know and understand what's going on in Guatemala. I cannot understand how Bernardo Arevalo goes to the United States and he can meet people from the Republican Party and nobody ask him the question that they should ask, and also I think that the Congress people should start to look at what's going on here in Guatemala. I know of a lot of people that have been trying to do to make these guys to take some notice and attention to the country, but nothing happened, and unfortunately what happens usually in the United States is that when things explode is when they start to realize that something going on, and we don't want that to happen, I think that to know that Guatemala, even though we have very bad press, is a peaceful country. We follow the law. Of course, we have a problem with human trafficking and narco trafficking and everything. But the only way that people are not going to leave the country and we are not going to have migration is that we are able to invest in the country. And if they are against investing and have free speech, they are against everything. If you don't have the liberties to do that, you are running in a lot of trouble in a country that is going to do the liberties, and then you are going to have more people there in the United States.
Right. Yeah. And as you say, the disconnect also between Bernardo Arevalo's image in the United States, which is, I guess, just a benign, slightly progressive man, versus the truth where he is a hardliner. He is going to, as you said, the Grupo de Pueblo, this 21st century socialist, basically dictator hangout, right, with Ortega and the Cubans and the Venezuelans, Bolivians, whatever. And for some reason, that hasn't gotten through. And for some reason, the State Department is buddies with him. It's very suggestive as to their alignment. Okay, I don't want to... Any final comment? I feel like you wanted to add a little bit more there.
No, I am sorry that this thing happened to my wife,
That's
because
right. She also lost her visa, to the United States.
Yeah, she lost her visa, so, and I am sorry that I'm not going to be able to go and visit my son and my grandson, which I think is the only thing that we did when we went to the United States, and I am, for me, this is incredible, that it's happening. Of course, that the United States can do whatever they want if they don't want me there. But I think that the mistakes that they are doing, we are going to pay them if they let them continue and stop the investigation of the attorney's office.
Yeah, these officials who have revoked your visa and the visa of your wife are being petty, vindictive, and juvenile, in my assessment, just because they get so bent out of shape that someone says things that they don't like. They don't care about free speech. And we should note that you've got to read the statement from Carlos on our website, Free Speech for Comrades Only, because just a couple of months ago, the State Department or the U.S. Embassy in Guatemala was talking about, we need free press because one of the publishers of another newspaper got himself arrested for bribing people and for engaging in all sorts of blackmail. So they claimed at that time to care about free speech, but obviously that was just a facade. So let's leave it there. Carlos, I appreciate you giving us your statement. People, please go to the go to impunityobserver.com and read that. Otherwise, we'll have all the show notes and ways to follow his work. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, sir.